The Galactic Concord Chamber was a masterpiece of arrogance. A cathedral of glass and gravity wells, suspended in orbit over Valor Prime. Every inch gleamed with the wealth of 1,000 civilizations, gold-veined floors, crystalline domes that caught starlight and scattered it like confetti. To the untrained eye, it was beautiful. To Ambassador Elara Vance, it was a stage. She stood at the center dais, alone. Her reflection stretched across the obsidian floor, a single human amid a galaxy of eyes. Her uniform was simple gray, her bearing composed. No motion wasted. No emotion shown. Around her, delegates murmured, the buzz of polite disdain. Humans, always so careful with their tone. Always smiling, always yielding. A species of diplomats, they said. A race that learned how to bow before it bled. Ambassador Vance, drawled High Chancellor RYTH Valor, his voice a velvet hiss. His serpentine body coiled within his throne of alloy and light. The Council convenes to discuss the matter of your fleets. Massive, disproportionate and, he tilted his head, unnecessary. Elara inclined her head slightly. Humanity's fleets exist solely for defense, Chancellor. We have complied with every Concord statute, every peace accord, and every trade regulation since our induction. A ripple of laughter slithered through the chamber. The Vraxian delegate, crystalline and translucent, clicked in amusement. Defense, she says. The Terrans ring their worlds with weapons that could split moons and call it courtesy. Elara smiled, a faint tightening of her lips. Courtesy, she said softly, is one of our oldest instincts. The room quieted. Even RYTH Valor's eyes narrowed slightly. He sensed something in her tone, a razor beneath silk. But he pressed on. The Peace Assurance Protocol, he continued, requires proportionality. Your species maintains one of the largest naval reserves in the Concord, yet your territory is the smallest. It disrupts equilibrium. Equilibrium. The word was poison disguised as law. Elara's calm gaze swept the chamber. You mean it disrupts control? Several delegates bristled. The Chancellor's smile never faltered. Semantics, Ambassador. No, she said, voice level. Intent. There was a pause, brief, charged, electric. Somewhere deep within the chamber's balconies, 1,000 translators hummed, processing her words into 100 languages. When silence settled again, it carried weight. RYTH Valor coiled tighter. You will surrender your fleets for dismantling within 48 hours, as mandated by Council vote. This ensures lasting peace. Humanity will, of course, comply. Elara's eyes flicked toward the holodisplay where her aide, Lieutenant Cass, stood behind a transparent console. Cass's hands trembled slightly. She didn't look up. Elara turned back to the Chancellor. Of course, Chancellor. Peace, after all, is worth sacrifice. Good, RYTH Valor purred. Your cooperation honors the Concord. The vote proceeded with ceremonial formality, raised crests, pulsing emblems, translated affirmations. Every species voted. Humanity's emblem, a simple blue earth, remained neutral, unlit. When the final count appeared, the result was unanimous. RYTH Valor rose, victorious. By the will of the Council, humanity shall be disarmed. Polite applause echoed. Elara bowed, shallow but deliberate. The moment her head lowered, her expression changed, serenity cracking for just an instant into something cold, calculating. As the session adjourned, delegates descended into chatter. Elara's aide approached quickly. Ambassador, they can't. They just did, Elara murmured. Have our fleets comply? Cass blinked. Fully? Yes. But the Admiralty. Elara's voice sharpened. I said fully. The young lieutenant hesitated, then nodded and hurried off. When the chamber emptied, Elara lingered. The hall's light dimmed to the color of dying embers. Alone, she allowed herself one unguarded breath. The Concord never forgot humanity's first impression, the smiling diplomats who came after centuries of silence. They believed humans had no teeth left. That Earth's wars had tamed them, broken them into civility. They mistook peace for surrender. The next day, the galaxy watched. Every major network streamed the disarmament ceremony, humanity's fleets arranged in perfect geometric patterns above the Soul Gate. Battleships, carriers, defense rings, all powered down, weapons offline. The hollow feeds filled with commentary, smug assurances of progress. "Observe," said the Chancellor to his gathered aides. "They understand their place now." Elara stood beside him, her expression serene. She said nothing as each ship's systems winked dark. One by one, the engines cooled to silence. RYTH Vaylor leaned close, voice almost paternal. "You see, Ambassador? Cooperation is beautiful. Your species will be safer now." Her tone remained even. "We appreciate the Council's guidance." He smiled, satisfied. "Your restraint will inspire the lesser worlds. It is admirable." Her gaze didn't move from the hollow. Restraint is easier when one remembers the cost of losing it. The Chancellor didn't understand the warning. He rarely understood humans beyond the polite veneer they wore so well. When the broadcast ended, the chamber's air felt thinner somehow. Elara nodded once, signaling the end of the event. Delegates filed out, congratulating themselves on securing another century of peace. Cass met her in the corridor, face pale. "Ambassador, message from Fleet Beacon Sigma." Elara slowed. "Go on." Cass hesitated, then handed over the datapad. The transmission was short, fragmented, static-laced with explosions. Multiple hostiles. Concord signatures, betrayal. Then silence. Elara stared at it for several seconds, her face unreadable. Around her, the corridor pulsed with the quiet rhythm of power conduits and diplomatic chatter. Cass whispered, "They're under attack, ma'am. Our own allies." Elara's eyes lifted, calm and bright as winter. "Inform Earth Command. Seal all outgoing channels." "Should we?" "No statements," she said softly. "Not yet." Cass swallowed. "What do I tell the press?" Elara looked toward the panoramic viewport where Vaylor Prime floated below, a jeweled planet under the indifferent light of its twin suns. Her reflection stared back at her, composed and unbroken. "Tell them," she said, "that humanity remains courteous." Cass hesitated, then nodded and left. When Elara was alone, she watched the distant stars, the ones where her fleets once stood. In her earpiece, faint static whispered. The same phrase repeated, broken by interference: Sigma, destroyed, courtesy terminated. Her expression didn't change, but her hands clasped behind her back, tightened until her knuckles whitened. Hours later, she stood once more in the council chamber, summoned for an update. The Chancellor appeared calm, concerned even. "A tragedy," he said, voice thick with mock sorrow. "Rogue elements, surely. We will investigate." Elara met his gaze without blinking. "Of course. We trust the Council's integrity." "Of course," he echoed. "In times like these, unity is essential. You humans have set a noble example." Her voice was soft. "We try." The broadcast began before dawn on Vaylor Prime. Every delegate, officer, and attendant in the Concord chamber gathered as emergency feeds filled the air with static and alarm tones. The holoscreen, suspended above the chamber's center, flickered to life, fragments of battle, distant screams carried through compressed transmissions. Ambassador Elara Vance stood at her usual position, hands folded neatly before her. Her face was pale but composed, her voice absent of tremor. The images before her showed humanity's fleets, those same ships that had surrendered their weapons 2 days prior, burning in orbit over Proxima Station. No music. No ceremony. Only cold silence broken by the hiss of ruptured hulls. RYTH Vaylor spoke first, his tone falsely heavy with sympathy. "Tragic. Unspeakable. These rogue elements who defy the peace protocols must be found and punished. You have our condolences, Ambassador." Elara didn't answer. Her eyes remained fixed on the screen, watching the slow dance of wreckage drifting through the void. "Ambassador?" the Chancellor pressed, head tilting. Surely your people will appreciate our swift response. Her voice was steady. You mean your swift deletion of evidence? A faint murmur spread through the delegates. Our HFY's pupils narrowed. You dare! I dare nothing, she interrupted softly. I observe. He smiled again, brittle and sharp. Be careful, Ambassador. Anger clouds judgment. Does it? She said, turning to meet his gaze. Or does it clarify who was never honest to begin with? For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. The hum of the hollow feeds filled the silence. Then Cass, her aide, entered hastily and approached the dais, whispering something into her ear. Elara listened without changing expression. Repeat that, she said quietly. Cass swallowed hard. Earth Command reports all outer colonies offline. Communication blackout across the Terran network. Every Concord-linked relay severed simultaneously. A low rustle of voices rippled through the chamber. Delegates whispered in confusion, others feigned ignorance. Our HFY's tail twitched. Surely a technical failure. Elara turned back to him. Surely. She stepped forward, standing directly beneath the great holographic globe that represented the Concord Alliance. Its many lights shimmered, one for each member species. The human symbol, once blue and bright, now flickered faintly, unstable. Elara Vance, our HFY began, his voice smooth. I assure you the Council will. Her tone cut through him like a blade wrapped in silk. Chancellor, do you believe we are naive? The hall went still. Even the translation drones paused, uncertain. Our HFY recovered quickly. This is no time for accusation. No, she said, eyes never leaving his. It's time for recognition. The word hung there, heavy, measured, precise. She raised her wrist console and tapped a silent command. Across the chamber, every human delegate, aides, observers, guards, stood simultaneously. The movement was smooth, perfectly synchronized. Our HFY's smile faltered. What is this? Protocol, Elara said. One you never noticed. On the holofeed, the wreckage of humanity's fleets dissolved into static. The signal died, then reignited with a new source. A black screen filled the projection, lines of Terran code flowing in silence. Then a voice emerged, calm, female, unmistakably artificial. Athena's system online. Terran's strategic command confirmed. Operation Courtesy terminated. The words echoed through the chamber. Dozens of alien delegates recoiled. The Chancellor's crest flared in alarm. What are you doing? Elara didn't answer him. Her gaze was on the holodisplay as it shifted again, now showing live telemetry feeds. Ships. Hundreds of them. Human signatures. Not destroyed. Not crippled. Hidden. Invisible fleets flickered into existence across half a dozen sectors. Each one activated simultaneously, as if responding to a single command. Cass's voice trembled. They were never decommissioned. No, Elara said quietly. They were miscounted. The hall erupted in confusion. Some delegates shouted accusations, others panicked. Our HFY struck his staff against the floor, voice booming. This is an act of war. Elara turned toward him, and for the first time since joining the Concord, she raised her voice. This is an act of memory. Her calm cracked just enough to let the weight of her words through. When the Concord bombed our colonies under the guise of peacekeeping, we forgave. When your fleets patrolled our skies, we complied. When you called us primitive, we smiled. We've been courteous for 200 years. You took it as permission. The chamber fell silent. Her eyes swept across the tiers of delegates, meeting gaze after gaze. No fury, only certainty. You call this peace, she continued. We call it probation. You mistook patience for weakness. You mistook calm for fear. You mistook humanity's silence for acceptance. You were wrong. A signal tone pulsed from the main console. Cass whispered urgently. Ambassador, incoming transmission. Origin, sole command. Patch it through. The hollow above them flickered once more, revealing the face of a man in a dark command uniform. Behind him, Earth's horizon glowed with dawn. Ambassador Vance? The man said, voice steady. The Directorate confirms activation. All external diplomatic channels now routed through independent Terran relay. Council monitoring suspended. HFY Vailer slammed his claw against the railing. Suspend that transmission! This is a direct breach of Concord security. Elara didn't move. Security requires trust. You lost that privilege. The man on the screen nodded slightly. All systems green. Awaiting your confirmation code. Elara's tone didn't waver. Omega-7. Execute defensive lockdown. A quiet chime answered her. Across the chamber, hidden systems hummed to life. The very air vibrated as external networks fell dark. The Concord's monitoring channels, thousands of them, blinked out one by one. Cass exhaled sharply. They've lost visibility. Good, Elara said. Let them watch from the outside. The Chancellor leaned forward, his scales dimming with unease. What have you done, Ambassador? What you forced us to remember, she replied. She gestured toward the hollow. It now displayed the orbital space around Vailer Prime, where a thin ring of new signatures appeared, faint but distinct. Dozens of ships. They're here, Cass whispered. Elara's voice lowered. Humanity's patience has limits. You asked how far our courtesy extends. This far. The Chancellor's tail lashed. You threaten the Council itself? No, Elara said simply. We remind it that respect is not optional. Around the chamber, human delegates remained motionless, faces unreadable. No raised voices, no overt aggression, just the stillness of a species that had finally chosen to stop pretending. Then the AI spoke again, its voice calm, clinical, undeniable. Athena to Concord Command, status confirmed. Human diplomatic restraint protocols deactivated. Awaiting further directive. Gasps filled the chamber. HFY Vailer turned to Elara, eyes wide. You would burn everything? The chamber was darker now. Emergency lighting traced pale lines across the floor, outlining the Council's great insignia, fractured and flickering. The delegates remained frozen in their chairs, trapped between disbelief and dread. Outside, the void was alive with motion, vast silhouettes gliding out of shadow, human warships emerging in silent formation. Elara Vance stood at the center dais, the single point of stillness amid chaos. Her hands rested behind her back, her expression unreadable. The holoscreens above her displayed real-time feeds, each one showing a fleet where none should exist. Terran vessels surrounded Vailer Prime like patient predators, engines pulsing in rhythm, every gun silent but waiting. The Chancellor broke first. What is this, Ambassador? HFY Vailer's voice shook, a hiss caught between fury and fear. You threaten the entire Council? Elara turned her gaze upward to the nearest hollow. The reflection of firelight shimmered across her eyes. No. We clarify our boundaries. He slammed his claw against the railing. You have violated every treaty. We wrote none of them, she replied quietly. You imposed them, one signature at a time, while calling it peace. The words struck harder than any weapon. Around them, whispers flared, half denial, half realization. Delegates argued, demanded explanations, called for guards who no longer answered. Elara raised a hand. Sit down. The tone was gentle, yet it carried weight. One by one, voices fell silent. Behind her, Cass monitored the feeds from her wrist display, voice barely steady. Ambassador, Athena confirms orbital lock. All Concord defense grids offline. No resistance detected. HFY Vailer hissed. You dare seize our systems. I dare ensure no more ships die under your mercy, Elara said. The Chancellor's eyes flicked to the hollow once more, where a single human dreadnought drifted above Vailer's upper atmosphere, immense, silent, its name emblazoned across the hull, HSS Valiant Dawn. Those fleets, he rasped. You said you disarmed them? Elara met his gaze. We did. We disarmed the ones you knew about. Gasps echoed from the surrounding tiers. The truth unfurled in silence. All those years of inspection, the meticulously counted ships, the transparent registries. All of it deliberate misdirection. Humanity hadn't hidden its power, it had hidden its intentions. She stepped forward, her voice low but clear. Every ship you see out there was built under your own regulations. None violate Concord law. They are crewed by those you dismissed, commanded by those you underestimated. RYTH Vaylor's voice faltered. What do you want? The truth acknowledged. Her tone never rose, but the words cut cleanly. You wanted submission. You wanted humanity docile and grateful. You bombed our colonies and called it liberation. You disarmed our fleets and called it peace. You erased our dead and called it balance. That ends now. He bared his fangs. You think this display frightens us? The Council is billions strong. She looked past him to the hollow showing Vaylor Prime, the planet wrapped in a delicate blue shimmer. The Terran fleet had deployed a containment veil, an energy field that disabled propulsion but left life support intact. No explosions, no casualties. A demonstration of control. Frighten you? She said. No. Teach you what restraint actually means. The Chancellor turned to the other delegates. She's bluffing. Humanity can't control a system-wide grid. A new voice interrupted, calm, female, unmistakable. Incorrect, Chancellor. System-wide integration confirmed. Concord defense grid now under Terran administration. No civilian functions compromised. The sound came from everywhere at once. Athena. Every alien in the chamber stared upward, as though the station itself had begun to speak. Elara regarded them evenly. You demanded we surrender control for the sake of peace. So we learned what control truly means. The AI continued, her tone gentle yet absolute. Human protocol compliance remains at 98%. Conflict probability minimal, provided external hostilities cease. A cold silence followed. Even RYTH Vaylor seemed to shrink within his throne. Elara turned slightly toward him. You see, Chancellor, we don't need to destroy you to make our point. We need only remind you how quickly peace collapses when trust becomes a weapon. He stared at her, voice barely a whisper. You could have come to us diplomatically. She tilted her head. We tried. For 2 centuries. The hollow shifted again, this time displaying archived footage, the Outer Rim purges, the bombings of the Terran colonies, the forced dismantling of human fleets. Each image spoke louder than accusation. RYTH Vaylor's composure cracked. You can't hold the galaxy hostage. I can, Elara said softly. But I won't. Her words froze everyone. She took a slow breath. Humanity doesn't seek conquest. We seek acknowledgement. From this day forward, Earth stands independent of the Concord. We will trade, collaborate, and defend, but never kneel. The Chancellor trembled. And if the Council refuses? Then we end the illusion of peace, she said. And the galaxy will see who kept the balance all along. The hollow screens around them flickered again, showing every Concord world in sequence. Orbiting above each, faint human signatures shimmered into visibility. Observation fleets, cloaked and silent. Not threats, reminders. A voice broke the silence, the Alarian delegate, whose crystalline form refracted the dim light. Ambassador, if humanity no longer believes in peace, what do you believe in? Elara met his gaze. In choice. Peace chosen freely, not enforced by fear. No one spoke after that. Even RYTH Vaylor seemed to sense the futility of further protest. Athena's voice returned, soft as breath. Directive confirmed. Disengaging containment veil. Vaylor Prime restored to standard orbital autonomy. Outside, the shimmering field dissipated. The human fleets held their positions, motionless, then slowly pivoted away from the planet, disciplined, synchronized, precise. Elara turned to the assembly one last time. You feared the day humanity lost its courtesy. Remember what you saw instead: control, not chaos. Mercy, not revenge. That's the difference between strength and dominance. She stepped down from the dais. Her boots echoed faintly against the polished floor. At the exit, she paused as the Chancellor called out, voice strained. Ambassador! She turned. What happens if someone tests you again? Elara regarded him for a long moment. Then you'll see what happens when we stop being polite permanently. She walked away without another word. The council chamber emptied slowly, leaving only echoes and the faint hum of systems rebooting. Outside, the human fleets dispersed, vanishing into folds of space. Within hours, the entire galaxy had witnessed the event, every transmission intercepted, every image replayed. Across 1,000 worlds, a new phrase began circulating. Don't make the humans turn it off again.